Nice. I've never been. I've heard it's fantastic. It's glorious. You seem relaxed. It's good. You seem relaxed. Oh, yeah. I literally flew in from DC this morning, and I'm,
You flew in from DC?
yeah, I'm tired.
So we gotta get a whole
Oh, I know.
we gotta get a whole nother pile. Or maybe just one. Power supply.
I got there around noon on Sunday. It was a very short sort of meeting with my couple board members.
To DC.
I know, and I've got a bunch of travel next week too, so okay, up in the front, students.
No, it's not okay.
That's not okay, buddy.
Elena?
You know,
Elena? I'll try.
it's just sad. Here's exactly what you said.
Oh, God. You ready, Paul? Good evening. I call this Iowa City Community School Board meeting on Tuesday, March 26, 2019 to order. My name is Janet Godwin, and I want to thank those in the audience, those watching on YouTube, and those following on Twitter for joining us tonight. I'll introduce those at the table with me, starting at my right, Superintendent Steve Murley, Directors Ruthina Malone, Phil Hemingway, Lori Rotland. To my left, Paul Ressler, Sean Eystone, J.P. Clausen, and Recording Secretary Kim Colvin. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they need to complete a speaker form found at the table in the lobby and turn it in. During community comment, persons may speak to the board about topics relevant to the district. All community comment directed at non-agenda items and agenda items shall take place at the beginning of the meeting during the community comment section of the agenda. And with that, we will move into our community comment section of the agenda, and we will start with Jamarty Hall. Following Jamarty is Renetta Jenkins.
How you guys doing today?
Good evening.
First, I would like to say thank you guys for actually having this program here. I'm here representing IJAG. First, I would like to say how IJAG has changed me as a person and what IJAG has done for me. IJAG has changed me as a person. It made me think a little bit differently because I was in a tight-knit community with being around people of the same type of color or the same type of background or same type of steps I was going through. I look around the room, there's a lot of other kids that probably have free and reduced lunch, and I can't relate to that in other different classes that I may have walked the hallways other than that. IJAG has also taught me how to apply myself within just, you don't learn any other classes, you don't really learn how to make or applications or any type of credit or tax information. A lot of people, especially my ethnicity, credit is kind of like not higher, and that was kind of like made an importance to me. IJAG has helped me to get to where I am today just because it's kept me with my head up high, making sure that I can get through anything just by showing great appearance and showing that I'm capable of doing something by enunciating my words right and just being able to have a can-do attitude. And I don't think that would be possible without Sarah Richardson. She's a great woman in the community. Other than that, IJAG has helped me by, I don't have a traditional post-educational job. I work as a social media consultant for a motion graphics company. I don't think going to, I didn't take the college route, and IJAG taught me that that was okay just because people have talents in many ways. And it's just kind of like finding exactly what you love and getting out there and doing it. And with that being said, it got me a pretty nice career and just keeping my head up, and I wouldn't be able to do that without IJAG. And I would like to thank you guys for having that as a program, and thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jamarty. Renetta Jenkins, followed by Alina Apollonia.
Hi, all. I just want to thank you guys for keeping IJAG. It's very important, I think, for everyone to get to experience. I originally wasn't even in IJAG. I asked to be in IJAG because I heard how awesome the program was. So that opened opportunity to my college career, in which I just graduated college early. So none of this would have been possible without IJAG and getting that experience to see the college, to be able to just see how campus life is for a day. So I'm really thankful for that opportunity. With that, I built a great resume. You know, I was open to new things. My mind was changed because Sarah led me to those things, to think differently, to be confident in whatever I want to do. And I took that literally. So I'm so thankful to be here, to be able to speak on IJAG for itself and to keep pushing and keep this program going, because a lot of students need this experience. They need to know what life is about after high school, and that you can go to college, but if you choose not to go to college, it's okay. Find something that fits you. I've opened my own business in financial literacy, and I think it's important for students to understand that concept as well, because we get out of college and we don't know about interest rates and we don't know about a lot of things, right? So I think that's really good too. So yeah, IJAG has advanced my skills, my confidence, in the way I go about a lot of things. I'm thankful for Sarah. I can always keep in touch with her. If I have any questions or if I need anything, she's there for me. So yes, please keep the program going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alina, followed by Sarah Richardson.
Hello, my name is Alma.
Alma, I'm sorry for
No,
getting your
fine.
name incorrect. I apologize.
I just want to thank you guys for your time and taking to listen to all of us. I am also here talking on behalf of IJAG. I am currently a sophomore at Mount Mercer University, and I graduated from City High in 2017. I was in the IJAG program for about 2 years, but I was always kind of in that classroom and in that environment. IJAG gave me a lot of different opportunities, as I said. They helped me build my resume, build my confidence as well, and giving me different opportunities in meeting different mentors. Sarah being one of them, as well as Rick Spear and Elizabeth Rook. And the teachers who are currently in those positions now are doing that job of giving the students opportunities. She said, not only going to college after high school, but getting into those jobs. And I think I'm really grateful that the program is still running and it continues to run, because it is a great opportunity. I got to go to Washington, D.C. with the program my junior year with 11 other students in the state of Iowa. And it was just a National Student Leadership Academy, and it gave me a lot of skills coming from that. I learned a lot about networking, and I learned about the value of education. And part of the reason why I'm standing here today is probably because of IJAG. And my older sister was actually in IJAG as well, and then my younger sister, who is a senior now, is in the program as well. And my older sister got the opportunity to join the Army, and part of the reason why was because of IJAG. My younger sister now is looking at where to go to college and, learning about the value of education, higher education. And so a lot of the reasons why of our successes is because of IJAG. So I just wanted to give you guys thank you for keeping the program going, because I think it is a really great program for underrepresented students, for them to learn about the various careers in the state of Iowa and the opportunities that they have. So thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Sarah, followed by Ella Pierce.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for everything you do for the Iowa City students. It's a tireless and frankly often thankless job, so we are here tonight to say thank you. And I hardly feel like I need to speak, because no one can speak better about IJAG than the students. We teach them to tell their stories, and when I let them know that there was some discussion about IJAG, they all wanted to tell their stories. Once we got the good news that IJAG was going to be sustained, I said, okay, you guys, some of us can just sit and be grateful, and others will talk and be grateful. But you see behind me, a wonderful group of students, and they represent the other, 300 who've gone through the program. So I come here with gratitude. It's clear the program is needed for the students with the greatest challenges to succeed. And once those students are given an opportunity, there's nothing they can't do. We have another entrepreneur who runs his own clothing shop. Jamarty, does graphics in LA. Ronetta runs her own company. Alma's going to be a social worker. We have Yubia over here who was talking to state legislators in Des Moines asking, for help for IJAG. So the sky's the limit, and we're here to help students get to where they need to be. You heard from the students it's wanted. We have a 9-10 program at City and West and an 11-12 program at City and West. These kids use word of mouth to bring in their siblings, their friends, they ask to join. We even have kids who visit in the classroom who, over lunchtime, if they have 4th hour open, they just come and hang out just to learn whether they're enrolled in the program or not. Our program works. Our students graduate at 98% rate, whereas their comparable peers with similar backgrounds graduated at a 90% rate in the Iowa City School District. So this program works. It's cost effective. As you know, you pay 1/3 of the cost. We IJAGs, I'm on the board, so I say we, but I'm you and I'm us and them, or we and you. So IJAG at the state level raises the other 2/3, one from the state government and the other 1/3 from private and corporate donors. So there's a value to this program, economically as well as socially, emotionally, culturally, and academically. So that's all I've got to say. These are your best spokespeople for IJAG and, frankly, for the success of the Iowa City School District and all the great things you guys do. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Sarah.
And any other language I might know.
And thank you to all of the students and former IJAG students for coming and sharing your stories tonight. It really, really is impressive and very meaningful and important for us to hear that. So thank you for coming tonight. Ella Pierce, followed by Heidi Pierce.
Hi, thank you for letting me talk. I don't think we there should be a budget cuts to orchestra for a lot of reasons, but one of the primary ones is that the teachers, which are already kind of spread thin throughout the school. I mean, like for our, I don't know about the entire school district, but for the kids who meet at Southeast, there are only there definitely several schools. There are just a few teachers a couple of teachers between them. And it's important for a lot of things. The socializing helps you make friends, but there are also a couple of things that, it can also teach you responsibility and collaboration, things that help you in school and real life. It's not some, it's not like it's some, and everyone can join if they want to. So it's not like it's not like something only some people can take advantage of that doesn't really affect the whole school. I don't really know. I didn't have much time to prepare, so I'm going to skitter off the stage.
Thank you so much, Ella. Thank you. Heidi, followed by Claudia McGhee.
Hello, my name is Heidi Pierce, and that was my daughter, Ella. She has been in orchestra since 5th grade. She's in 6th grade this year. And we're a family that loves music. I actually bought her first cello when she was 3 years old, violin when she was 3 years old. And now she plays cello. She did not want to play violin. She had actually took an orchestra director at school to get her to play and to practice every day. But music is so important. It's so important for many reasons, some of which she mentioned. The district, I'm sure you're all aware, cut fourth grade strings a few years ago, and we're a little concerned that there will be more cuts. I know there are 3 music faculty and staff that are retiring. We hope those folks will be replaced, if not even adding more positions for music teachers. It's a very, very important way for students to develop grit, perseverance, and, as Ella said, to make friends. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much, Heidi. Claudia McGhee, followed by Catherine House.
Good evening. Thank you for your hard work on the budget and everything else, and the opportunity to speak with you. My name's Claudia McGhee, and I'm a nationally published author and illustrator of several picture books and part of a larger community of children's book writers and illustrators active here in Iowa City, the city of literature. I'm going to speak to you today as a grown-up, but also taking my inner second grader into hand as well. Because when I was in second grade, I made a series of little stapled books. I illustrated them, I wrote them, and I came to my school librarian, showed them, and she asked me, would you like to put these books in the library? And I was thrilled. They got a call number, they got a little checkout card that we all probably remember filling out when we were kids. What a gift that librarian gave to me. It was a gift of confidence, and it was a direct link to my future vocation. And I bet there are thousands and thousands of stories similar to mine, where librarians recognize children's ambitions and passions and encouraged and steer them towards resources that might set the course of their lives. Libraries function as a heart of the school. Students gather here in community, they study, they seek inspiration, they even seek respite and refuge in some cases. It's crucial that a staff librarian is there daily to facilitate all this and guide young people in this unique, important space. If we diminish and limit staff librarians' time with students, so many conversations will be lost. If the librarian seat is empty the day that the child has something to share, something vital to the student could go undiscovered. I hope you will carefully consider the invaluable role that full-time librarians play in our young people's lives, their current lives, and their future lives. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. Catherine House, followed by Laura Green.
Hi, good evening. My name is Catherine House, and I have a child in the Iowa City Community School District. She's an 8th grader at Southeast Junior High. I also have a son who is in college who went through Hoover, Southeast, and City High. So I'm speaking to you as a parent, but I'm also speaking to you as an author. Like Claudia, I'm an author of nonfiction children's books, and so I'm passionate about the role that reading and literacy and research and information can play not only in children's lives at school and at home, but also through the rest of their lives. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is some of the roles that librarians play, because I think sometimes people maybe minimize what's involved, think that they could be replaced by a parent volunteer or not replaced at all, that they're just checking out books. And so some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, that the librarians in our schools touch every single student and every single teacher. So those librarians know all of the kids. As Claudia said, they're there if a child needs somebody to talk to, and so much more. But they're also there to support the teachers in terms of resources, in terms of technology. So that's one thing that I'd like to mention. The other thing is a librarian, a trained professional librarian, I really view as a matchmaker. They're the ones that are finding the right book for the right child at the right time. Whether it's something that, a child who's just learning to read or struggling to learn to read, and the librarian can steer them towards the right book. It may be a kid who's read every book on insects that
you know, we thought existed, and the librarian can find something, whether it's maybe an online source or some reference book for older kids or something that is going to keep their passion going. And so, and also kids that maybe are troubled. Something's happening at home. Maybe there's a book that can show them what other, you know, a character has gone through in their life that maybe mirrors a little bit of their own struggles and can offer inspiration and hope for a child. So that's one thing. It's one very important thing that librarians do. The other thing that I want to mention that is a passion of mine is that librarians are really at the forefront of teaching about information and technology literacy. So in other words, how do you evaluate a source? We all have seen the spread of things on social media. You know, Wikipedia is not an expert source for any of us for, I mean, there are very few reasons. You know, they have good bibliography sometimes at the end, as I tell students. But to be able to teach children how you evaluate a source, how you can compare sources, how you can know that something is important. I mean, I really view that as fundamental to creating lifelong learners, to teaching children how to do research about things throughout their lives, whether it's, you know, getting a voter registration card or speaking at a school board meeting. And it's really a foundation of our democracy. Professional librarians also read professional journals so they can properly cultivate the collection and be up on technology updates. They're responsible for the Chromebooks. At Southeast, I understand 45 kids every day on average forget their Chromebook, and so the librarians are responsible for checking those out. And I want to close in talking about, as I mentioned, that the librarians touch every child in our school district. And last summer, a couple weeks before school started, my daughter was getting texts from a friend who was in trouble. And we were trying to decide what to do because the teachers weren't in the building yet. And she contacted the librarian who got the child help. So librarians can be friends to lots of kids for lots of different reasons. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Laura Green.
Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Laura Green. I have a kiddo that goes to Southeast. I was raised in the Iowa City School District. After I left Iowa City, I did 4 years of college and 2 more years of graduate school. I'm now an occupational therapist. I work in higher education. And I wanted to speak to you guys tonight related to budget cuts and my concerns related to the fine arts programs. I know you guys have a really difficult decision to make, and I understand as a program director how difficult it is to make those decisions when budgets come into play. My hope is that you will consider trying to lessen the amount that is cut from the fine arts programs. As a student within the Iowa City School District, I participated in choir and show choir. The skills that I learned along the way, hard work, determination, perseverance, collaboration, all of those were gained through that. And I really honestly think that those skills were truly what helped me navigate through higher education in general. And when you look even in employment settings, those are the skills that employers want too. So my hope is that as you consider making some of these cuts, that you try to lessen the impact on our fine arts programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That concludes community comment this evening. We'll move on to the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve our agenda tonight?
I move that we approve our agenda.
Second.
Any conversation? Hearing none. Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, the consent agenda. Phil, do you want to start with the review of our bills?
Yeah, Sean did it as well. The spring break, we had 2 days to do it, and I'm surprised Sean made it on the first day. I think we got the email on that day as well. It was, we This 2-week period, we dispersed $1.4 million, $730,000 out of the general fund. We had some interesting expenditures. $6.46 for a rubber chicken, $5.99 for play money, radar gun for baseball for $455, beef sticks, chewing gum, and headphones, and soccer scouting report for $825. Also, a lot of spending on travel and trips, and I requested some information on it and that, but it's concerning at a time when we knew years ago we were in a tough budget cycle and we had people going to Disney World in California at a time when we're in making some real tough decisions, and I get that some of this is grant approved and that, but it's concerning, and I think it was brought up at a work session whether all this travel was really something that we needed to do, and I think it's a discussion we need to have further, and I challenge my other board members to weigh in on that when we have the work session discussion. And also looking at the receipts from travel, general fund money is used for tips, and I've got concerns with the legitimate educational purpose of tips for that, but that's a discussion we can have at a budget situation, a budget discussion, and in the policy and governance, which we'll discuss later, there's some discussions with that. But, most of the questions I asked were answered that way. But Sean, if you've got some things as well.
I just want to mention, in the bills this time around, there was a lot of payments to some of our PSEO and Kirkwood and stuff, and there was it's a lot of money going out, and so I had a conversation with Craig after I looked at it just to kind of wrap my head around how the money comes in and goes out for that sort of thing, because it's a significant dollar amount. And Craig kind of clarified how that all works and how the weighting works for our students and how much money's coming in, how much is going out for those things. So I appreciate that conversation.
Thank you, Phil and Sean, for your review of the bills this pay period. Are there items to remove from the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 9 and 10.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 9 and 10?
I move to approve the consent agenda minus items 9 and 10.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with Directors Rotland, Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you. Item 9.
Yes, 9 is a roof physical plant roof survey. I asked some questions about, we've paid in the past for, if it's not a construction standard, there's been some expenditures in the past in this area. It seems like a lot of funds for someone to tell us to put a latch on a door or a placement on a ladder, and I think code and things like that go to it. Can you explain why we should be spending this money, Dwayne?
Did you receive the memo today?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well, an hour before the meeting.
Well, then I know I have to repeat myself, but this particular request is to survey our point of access from interior rooms onto the roof. Like, we have a lot of mechanical rooms where there's a ladder that goes up to a hatch and then onto the roof. And we've had some safety issues with that. We had a contractor actually break their arm going up one of those ladders. There are safe ladders, there are unsafe ladders. We have a different varied age of buildings, from 1910 to 2019, and they're all different. They all have different access points. So we felt it was time to survey all those and get an accurate assessment of the ladders that should be replaced or repaired or just totally removed. the previous survey that we did back in 15 and 16, I think it was to do ladders that are mounted on the building from one roof level to another. And we did that survey because we had a craftsman break his ankle climbing over a parapet wall from one level to another, an HVAC guy. And that's totally different than what this survey will do. This is the access to those roofs. I would point out that there are no, except maybe one at City High, I have to have checked out, ladders that go from the ground to the roof. Most of the buildings, you go into the interior part of the building to access the roof, and then once you're on the roof ladders get you from multiple levels. So this is the access from inside the building that this survey would do. We think there's some safety issues that we need to correct. Does that explain?
Is there a motion to approve item 9?
I move we approve item 9.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with Directors Rotland, Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Item 10.
Yes, on the MAN project, there's a change order in there, and there's an unknown that was made known. Can you bring us up to speed on that? And also, there was, I was approached over spring break by a city council person, and there was been some email about the drop-off zone at MAN Elementary as well.
Okay, let me find my man board item. Some of these get pretty lengthy. I can answer the second part of your question first. The City Councilman Thomas has made a request to the City Council, and he was apparently unaware that we've already made some accommodations on that site, working with city staff and city engineers, so there must be a disconnect there somewhere. There was a letter written by citizens supporting that change. We've already made the change. We reduced the size. The original request for the drop-off lane on the south side of the building went around the curve. It had room for 8 cars. We reduced it to 6. The city approved it. The city came back to us later and said, we'd like to work with you and reduce that even more so that there's no curve involved in that drop-off lane. And it would then open up the access to the city park from Fairchild Street. We obliged, we did it. And so all the requests that have come lately are kind of after the fact. It's already been done. So I think we've satisfied Councilman Thomas. He may not know it yet, but we've already done it. So.
If he doesn't,
Yeah.
after tonight, I'll contact
right.
him and let him know. But there was some concern about maintaining a tree that the city's trying to maintain, an ash tree in the mature canopy, and I appreciate the district working with them.
I can't guarantee that the tree will be protected. It's pretty close. It may ultimately die anyway because of the construction nearby. So.
Yeah, right, but
we'll do our best.
It's part of what they want to do with their mature canopy. But I applaud your work.
So everybody can relate. We actually removed a duplex south of Man, and that's the area we're talking about. You asked about the unforeseen at Man. Is that your question?
Right. The change order.
It had several things in there. We're putting in a chairlift provision for that we requested. We changed some framing in the computer lab. There were some structural elements in the existing building that had to be added. We had to remove some concrete supports. We had to redo some overflow drains, things like that. Things that you find in an old building. Nothing really significant. I mean, it adds up. $109,000 is a lot of money, but there are just a lot of small things.
Move that we approve Appendix 9.
Second.
To vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Public hearings. First up is City High School addition.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the City High School addition project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on February 26, 2019. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on February 27, 2019. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. April 2nd, 2019 at the Educational Services Center located at 1725 North Dodge Street, Iowa City, Iowa 52245. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on February 27, 2019. Are there any questions from the board?
Are there any changes with respect to like in what you're bidding with the architectural renderings as far as the elaborate ceiling in the wrestling room and things like that, or is that's what the bid is going out for?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we fixed that. That ceiling in the wrestling room was removed. It's more of a traditional ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And are there any provisions for career and tech, woods, ag education when we get to that, or metals in what's being proposed?
I would say specifically not, but there will be some free space in the abandoned cafeteria that could be used however you desire. That's an academic decision, not mine.
Okay.
Are there any questions from the public?
Concludes that public hearing. Next up, participation in the Instructional Support Levy Program.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing to consider participation in the Instructional Support Levy Program. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on February 26, 2019. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press-Citizen on March 11, 2019. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public?
Thank you. That concludes that public hearing. Next up, we have policy review. Policies 100, 200, and 900. I think I'm turning it over to Ruthina.
Yep.
Thank you.
So there was a delay in getting some information out, and I'll let Steve,
So at our last meeting, one of the things that has been asked is how do we go about ascertaining old to new? And we're having a hard time necessarily just providing a red line electronic copy. So what we've done instead is we put binders together that show the old policy and the new policy and have those articulated so that you can see how those line up, along with a summary in the front of it. We've developed kind of an instruction process for each of those manuals. We'll have a desk copy available, and we'll be encouraging folks to come in and take a walk through that, and then either Ruthina or I can help them go through that process so that they can see that old to new transition. Part of the issue is that we've got a lot of pieces that come from a lot of different places, so you may find things from board governance or board linkage or admin guidelines and procedures or legally mandated policies, et cetera. And so this way we can put those all together so you can see all of the old components and then how they translate into the new language. We've done that now for all of the series. The board has reviewed 1, 2, and 9. So we'll get that information out to you as board members tomorrow, and hopefully we will find the opportunity to come in and take a look at those. Like I said, I'm happy to set up time with you if you'd like to come in while I'm there so that I can help walk through it. Ruthina's also volunteered to help out with that process.
So the hope is that because there's no way to provide that electronically, board members would dedicate time to go through that, so we can then have that discussions if there's concerns, questions, or changes that we would want to discuss at P&G before coming back for final approval or discussion at the board table. We can have that done. Are there any questions? We made available the 1s, 2s, and 900s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got some questions on. There's a lot in there on service and therapy animals in the policy, and I know we used to have, and I hope I'm using it. I believe it was therapy dogs for reading and things like that with a organization that have been doing it for many years. So they're allowed to go in the schools and do that now. And is that district-wide, or is that a case-by-case with each individual school? How does that work?
They apply by school. There's actually 4 separate animal policies. Only 2 of them right now are visible in those 1s, 2s, and 9s. So there's actually a policy that governs animals that are in from a service standpoint and the animals that are in from a therapy standpoint, then also pets in the classroom, and then what's the fourth one that I'm missing? What's that? Visiting animals, sorry about that. So there's 4 separate policies that are in there, and certainly from, for instance, the therapy dogs, Johnson County would be one example, that for those schools that they're interested in participating, they work through the building principal on that. If you look through the policy, there's actually the whole process in the back with the application that they go through, notification that's sent out to parents, and then that approval process and how they go about getting the dogs into the schools to work with the students.
And I saw a thing in there about service horses, or?
And that's actually a federal requirement. So for those animals that qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act, they look at 2 animals, they look at dogs, and they look at miniature horses. And so that comes to us directly from federal legislation.
Okay. And as far as the visiting animals, would that encompass when we do get ag education? And I know there's days they bring their animals onto school grounds for safety and those purposes that would fall into that type of.
Sure. Another example would be Alexander Elementary School did some career awareness. They had a veterinarian come in, so she brought some animals with her, so that would cover that also.
Okay. And as far as you know, if we have someone that has a service animal, I'm sure that we have some students that may have dander allergy issues. How are we prepared to handle that?
And that's part of the process. As you look through the back, there's a requirement that the parents or the, for instance, the therapy dog providers come to the administrator, request that permission. If it's a dog that's going to be in a classroom, a notification is sent out to the students in that classroom. If it's a dog that's going to be present in the school or an animal that's present in the school, then that notification is sent out to the school population, and that gives us the opportunity, if there are any students that happen to have any animal allergies, that we can then make the appropriate decision. If it's a service animal, that's an ADA requirement, so then we have to balance those students' needs, and so that's part of the process, but that gives us that opportunity to work through that and make sure that we're meeting both the needs of the student with the request and the rest of the students in the building.
Okay. And I know there's a lot of code in here, but just a few, I think the conflict of interest needs to be some more work done on that one. And the association membership, 216.1, it's essentially the board will maintain an active membership with the Association of the Iowa Association of School Boards. We've had discussions of possibly, stopping that, and I think something to the effect that we would maintain memberships or associations that we feel are beneficial to the school district and not specify one in particular and have it in the policy, that type of the thing. But yeah, I think we need to have a further discussion as a group going over kind of the old and that. And I see that the code of ethics was struck completely.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that too, the code of ethics, and I actually like having the code of ethics as a policy because then it's rule-based, and I understand we also have norms, but norms are different than ethics. Norms are more behavioral standards, ethics are more rule-based, and I actually think there's room for both sets of guiding norms and ethics. So I actually like having the code of ethics and a policy that governs our work. So that's just my personal opinion, and I do think they're different from norms.
Yeah. I think you're valid. I think it's valid, but it just has to be constitutional as well. I mean, we have to recognize free speech and things like that.
Yes.
Things of that nature, but there's nothing.
So we had a discussion surrounding how to proceed with code of ethics, and one of the things was changing it. The language to make sure it didn't violate anyone's constitutional right or freedom of speech. And the other option was, let's see how the board responds if we took that out, because a lot of what's in there are in our board norms. So we can definitely take that back. We have a meeting Tuesday, or I think Tuesday. It's coming up, and discuss it further and maybe tweak it. Again, this is a work in progress. So we want to hear feedback from the other board members, and hopefully people will have that opportunity to come in and sit with the policies. Again, I'm happy to work my schedule around so I can be there with people if you have questions, if you would prefer that.
Thanks. I do get there's a lot of overlap between the current ethics and our current norms. And maybe that means we should refine our norms more too going forward, but my personal opinion is I think there's room for both, and love to hear P&G's next take on that.
I'll just say that I feel pretty confident in saying that I was the one that suggested striking that part of it, because we do have the board norms, and honestly, my discussion, I think, if I recall it correctly, went more that there's no real way to enforce it anyway. So if we have it in our norms, we should just follow it in our norms, and that's why we took it out of the policy.
I think the ability to change it in the norms more frequently is probably, if you're going to eliminate the redundancy, the norms are something we're going to evaluate on an annual basis. And the way we've got it set up, we won't review this policy necessarily. For every 3 years, I think, is how we're setting it up. So if it's going to be redundant, then maybe we have it in the place that's more easily changeable. But I can see the value of having it in both places as well. So
I mean, the ethics do feel like they'd be more persistent and not something that you'd want to change very often. Norms, on the other hand, could be situational, contextual with a particular board composition. And so there may be certain things, as we are doing our own board development, where there may be a norm that we want to put in a particular year because we want to practice that and improve in that particular area. It's just food for thought for the P&G committee the next time we get together. Thanks.
I have one question, because I was asked the question, and I didn't really think about it in terms of it being in these policies, but it comes up because it's in one of the policies. With the change to school elections moving to November, I was asked the question when it comes to if we have a vacancy and we want to file, or the public wants to file a petition to fill that vacancy, what are the rules around how many signatures you need? Because a lot of them are based on previous elections, and sometimes it's not. I know if you want to run for the school board, it's actually the lesser of two numbers, but I think other things are the greater of two numbers. I don't know how that would affect things.
I'm not aware that of any change in the law that changed the number of signatures required for that to happen. So if you have a larger election, like a general election, you will require a lot more signatures based on that being your previous election. So I'm not aware that the law changed in that regard, but we can certainly look it up.
You know what it is? I'm just, our last school election was pretty darn big because we had the bond on it, and everyone after this will be bigger than it has been in the past because it's now joined with cities and stuff. So it does change that number, but I don't remember what the actual law is on it.
I think it's 30%. Yeah. And
so that's a big number.
I'm not aware that percentage has changed, that they changed that when they changed the election cycle. And so I think you're sitting with the responsibility of seeking more signatures on petitions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Follow-up process question, Ruthina. You said the P&G's meeting next Tuesday. It sounds like we should come in and do that review and get you our comments or questions before next Tuesday.
No, if you're more than welcome to, but being realistic and respectful of your time, we didn't anticipate a whole lot of you being able to, so this is a work in progress. We will actually move on to 300s and 400s, in addition to discussing some of the issues raised tonight for the 1s, 2s, and 900s. But as you can, please do get in and review those and send questions or concerns.
I just mentioned some of the conversation is viable for multiple series. So when you talk about conflict of interest, right? We've got it specifically in the 200 here, which is a board thing, and then in the, I don't remember what the other numbers are, but there's a staff thing, and I think we'd want consistency there. So the same concern you'd have for one, we would discuss it within the other one as well.
Thank you to the P&G committee. I know this is a ton of work, and thanks to Steve and his team for helping us jumpstart this activity. It's a lot of work. I think it'll create a good foundation for going forward, though.
Big thanks to Kim, who's helping manage the logistics on this.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Thanks, folks. Any further comments on the policy review? If not, we'll move into our presentations for the evening. And first up, we have our Equity Advisory Committee. Welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us again. My name is Yolanda Rivera. I'm the current chair of the Equity Committee. And we are pleased to be here once more to share with you what the committee is doing and the work we've been doing in regard to the Comprehensive Equity Plan and how the committee can help and support district-wide improvement. Okay. Quick overview of what we will be talking about today. We have a couple of our newest members with us, so we'll be introducing them, talking a little bit about mid-year acknowledgements, the work that has been done and the work that is in progress and the work that's upcoming, and the ongoing monitoring or reviewing of the Comprehensive Equity Plan. So we have a new group of Equity Committee members. The recruitment process was great. We worked in conjunction with Director Laura Cottrell to systemize the process. In the past, we had a small group of committee members, and recruiting was mostly by word of mouth. So this time we decided we wanted to reach to a broader audience, and we systemized the process. The district advertised widely about openings and worked with us to design and disseminate a new flyer that talked about our functions and what the expectations were for working with the committee. We received over 35 applicants, which was great. And it was a very diverse pool with very diverse skills and backgrounds, which was great for our committee. We spent an entire meeting going over all the applications, reviewing them carefully, having discussions about all the applicants, and in the end we decided to invite 9 committee members, which is a huge number, but we're very excited about it, to join the committee, and they joined us in January. We have some of them here with us today. We are spread up. We have Gabriela Rivera here, Nadine Petty over there, Ain Grooms, and stand up, yeah. As long as some of our veteran members, Brian Brandsmeyer, sorry, I totally, and Kim Hannerhan, and Charlie and Stephanie here. Am I missing any? Oh, and Jane. Jane just walked in. And Jane is with us. So, I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, it's Ain, yeah. So we are happy to have a very diverse, highly knowledgeable group, and we are looking forward to great work. We were very intentional about onboarding their newest members. Our first meeting, we allocated 2 hours to helping them understand the scope and the role of the Equity Committee, and helping them make way for their engagement and their leadership. We spent time getting to know each other in an opening circle, reviewed committee values and guidelines. We shared the structure, charge, and bylaws of the committee and the ways in which we carry our charge. And we discussed the district's strategic goals and the Comprehensive Equity Plan. The new members expressed appreciation for taking time for the onboarding process, but they also shared the view that it's a lot to take in, and that they recognize that the veteran members have a lot of prior knowledge about the district and equity and the issues that arise, such as district data and the implications of the data on equity in our district. They would love to have more access to background information so that they can prepare to serve. We all recognize this progress of bringing new members up to speed and encouraging new perspectives must be an ongoing process. We have set out space in our agenda for future meetings that will have time allocated for administrative background, insights, and updates. We also strive to expand the communities we engage with. We strive to receive support input from our community when addressing issues that arise. The diversity of our membership helps ensure that the discussion in the moment is representative of diverse perspectives. We have included some of attachments with some of our values and guidelines, so in case you guys want to look over and see how our meetings are conducted. And then I'm going to hand it over to Charlie.
Thanks, Yolanda and Laura. I'm Charlie Eastham, member of the Equity Committee. We want to recognize that the board and the district have taken significant steps in addressing disparities in student achievement and experience, both of this board and the previous board in the past very few years. We believe it's important that the board's leadership be acknowledged. We want to highlight some of the most significant ongoing efforts since adopting the first version of the Comprehensive Equity Plan some 3.5 years ago. One insight is that we're at the point where we are able to build on the work of the past 3 years. We can look at the implementation of initiatives as well as the impact the initiatives have had or not had. And it's great to be able to be at this point where we have things to look at, things to evaluate. We encourage you as a board to approach this as a vital, continuous process of improvement. This requires regularly examining what is happening, how it is going, what the impact is, and what can be done to improve our current in-place efforts.
So what's next? You guys have done an awful lot over the last couple boards to look at equity differently in our district. And we see ourselves as advising on the Comprehensive Equity Plan updates regarding the range of issues that might be included in the Comprehensive Equity Plan. The way the Comprehensive Equity Plan might be used for school and district improvement, and what data might be used to guide implementation of the Comprehensive Equity Plan. The school administration tells us they anticipate finishing the Comprehensive Equity Plan towards the end of this school year, and we anticipate finishing our review by June of 2019. And then we're going to develop a schedule of topics to review for each monthly board meeting like we have been doing in the past. We're going to review data, including patterns and trends and anomalies. We're going to investigate some of the research and best practices and legislation and code to identify issues and goals and actions. And we're going to pay particular attention to intersectionality.
Okay, so our question for you is, have we identified the appropriate functions of our committee in support for the Comprehensive Equity Plan? And in what ways can the committee best support the board as you monitor the Comprehensive Equity Plan or the new Comprehensive Equity Plan that's coming up? What would be the best way?
Good questions.
Any questions?
I'll start. I appreciate the monthly updates of covering all of the different topics that you guys have given us in the past, and I would appreciate that moving forward because it helps us to look at every little piece a little bit differently. When you just look at equity as a broad thing, it's hard to grasp how can we fix things without breaking it into the little pieces, so I appreciate that. I think pretty much every single update that you guys have given us ended somewhere with, this probably needs an update to the plan. And I think some of our discussion, all right, who's going to update that? Like, who's going to take that on? And I think whatever review that you guys have done, and you've got great ideas to update it, and we've talked about things that we would want to update as well, but I think that it's got to be a very collaborative thing in order to just get it done, and I think that's where I was kind of stuck for the longest time was, who's going to do it, when are we going to do it, and we know it needs to be updated, so how's that happening? So that's where I would like to make sure that we have a nice timeline as who's going to do what and when it's going to get done. So.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
So the new Director of Equity, Jeremy Tabor, and the Equity Department, myself, and some other people have been reaching out to our directors so that in their houses, kind of like the things that they deal with, they've been giving suggestions about how to make this plan more equitable moving forward, and that's what we're working from. So we're actually presenting to the Equity Advisory Committee a draft of sorts based on what we've already been working on and the direction in which we need to go. So that's kind of the skeleton. So we're doing the work, we're prepared to do it, but we definitely need feedback from various stakeholders before we put this policy into place. But I'm super excited about it because this year's policy is a little different because there's accountability piece, and I think that's going to be really helpful for all of us.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, I guess I had sort of similar reactions or thoughts as Sean. And one of the things that, as the new plan comes out in June and the Equity Committee reviews, I also want to make sure that as the board is setting our goals for our next year, that we're in tight alignment and we pick some priorities. Because there's so many things, right, that we can be doing. And we can do lots of little things a little bit, or we can focus our energy on 2 or 3 bigger topics and actually maybe move the needle a bit more. And so I'd love to get, as you're reviewing that plan and you're thinking about priorities, I'd love to get your view and the Equity Committee's view on what you would see as like the top 3 priorities that then perhaps the board could align our goals to and the administration could align their goals to for the 2019-2020 school year. And then, and then the Equity Committee can help us gauge progress. If we're collecting data, perhaps you can help parse and analyze the data. I'm just thinking out loud, but I'm looking at focus and priority so we can really get some of this, hard stuff done. Other comments or questions?
Well, the Equity Committee I appreciate your monthly updates and pushing and prodding us, and don't be afraid to criticize us. Why should you be any different than anybody else that way? And but it's always been constructive and it's been extremely helpful, and they're difficult conversations sometimes but we have to have them, and it's important that we have a group that helps push us and have those discussions. So I thank you and thank the new members, and glad to see that we have new voices in the conversation as well, and old ones that have been helpful for a long time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you. Next up, we have, I believe, our grant update.
So you have a couple of documents that are attached. One is the update that we received from Bi-State Construction. The other one is our weekly update that Andrew Reich provides us from FRK. Craig and Dwayne and Ken and Andrew and I were all out on site today this morning. And I can tell you that we've had a good month out there. The weather's been cooperative. More importantly, I think Bi-State has stepped up substantially. And Andrew's been instrumental. You can wave Andrew, by the way, so we can remember who Andrew is. Andrew's been instrumental in helping us liaise with Bi-State and helping our team out on site there. And I'm happy to report that they are significantly further along than we reported to you a month ago, and that as of today, there's a high level of confidence that we're going to be in on August 1st. So we will meet that August 1st timeline for the district to move into the building. We will continue to monitor. You'll continue to get weekly updates from us as we move forward, so that you can see how they are measuring on those benchmarks that you see aligned there. What you're going to see as we move forward is new projects will roll on there as the projects that they've completed roll off. So you'll see the timeline shift forward from right to left as we advance in the weeks and the months. And then vertically, you're going to see new projects roll on there as they get further along in that process. And at least as of today, we're pleased to report that we will have students in there this fall on the first day of school. Questions that I can answer for you?
It's great progress.
It is. We're very pleased with it.
And I've been driving by it a lot over spring break. We were watching a dog up in Cedar Springs, so we had to drive by the school every day. And it definitely, has walls and a roof now that weren't there before, so that's very encouraging. The question I have, and maybe it's not really related, well, it's related, but it's not for these guys. I know I got an email from North Liberty talking about the plan to work on the roundabouts and all the traffic pattern. Is that going to impede the work going? Is it going to be in the, like, how much is that going to?
No, as a matter of fact, we've talked at length about that. There are two separate entities, two construction companies that are working on that. We have one company that's working on our flat surfaces, and the city went through an RFP process. They awarded the contract to another company, but they are already working together. Part of our work is to make sure that we've cleared our properties to the point that they're prepared to work on it. One of the things we're actually working on right now is the fence line. We put our fence in place with one expectation for a set of timeline that they were working on for their road work. That's changed somewhat. We're going to need to move our fence line. We had a conversation today. We may actually use the south side of our building as a portion of our fence and then secure the front entrance there so that we can make sure that our construction site is secured. We're, of course, very cognizant of the fact that there's a very large residential neighborhood right behind that, and that's certainly attractive to kids who may want to come onto the site, so we want to keep that secured. But as of right now, we're well prepared to work with them. They'll have a detour route eventually that'll wind up coming in front of the school, so we've been involved with the municipality as they go through their planning process for quite a bit of extensive road construction up there. If you've driven through the area, you can see where they started to clear out lots for where the roundabouts are going to go. So they're well on their way to getting that process underway.
They sent out the 3 maps, like the 3-stage process, and the change to the detours, which were clear as mud, I might add, with all these little arrows going around roundabouts. But I just was kind of curious as to how our work is, interplays with the city's work on doing that. Just more curiosity. I know that currently they've got the road closed now on Front Street between Cherry and Dubuque because of, well, the road's like basically torn to pieces from our winter. So that's also causing traffic issues. And I was just picturing all those people up in Cedar Springs trying to get down to Garner, and the people up in Fox Run trying to get around over to Penn during this whole process is going to be kind of squishy, I guess is a good word for it.
We have a very active and dynamic relationship with the city administrator and the city planner. We meet with them monthly. Dwayne and I and others as needed have kept that dialogue running for the last 2 years and or 3 years actually, maybe even longer as Liberty's been going up. But every month we meet and we discuss these very issues, and we feel very comfortable we're on the same page. And they're just extremely good to work with, and we're able to work out a lot of problems before they ever come up. So we're very grateful for that.
I might add that part of the road south of the school is actually part of our contract to do, and they're getting that started. Up to the roundabout, we're pretty much obliged to pave as part of our contract. It's already included. And I would add that Shive Hatteries, the city firm, the firm that's doing the design work for the city on the roundabouts, and they've had us involved in discussions on the phasing. I know they look complicated, but they work. And what you need to know is that we've had a lot of input into that, and with working with the city engineers and the city staff, and it'll work. But key pieces have to be done at the right time, and the first piece that needs to be done is our section of road. And as Steve mentioned, they're out there moving the fences today, getting ready for that. We moved a dirt pile to get ready for that, things like that. So it's
That'd be
it's
the
been
road across from the south slope entrance that's going to join the circle? Is that the road you're talking?
There's a bend in the road. It's
Yeah.
also called North
Kinda,
Bend Road,
yeah.
but from the roundabout in front of South Slope, it bends southward and then westward. That section we have to pave, and that road will be used as a primary detour route while they're building the section between the north roundabout and the south roundabout, to keep it simple.
Earlier in our discussions on that project, that was noted that there's a help wanted sign outside the job site. Is it, not that I'm looking for an opening, Dwayne, but is there still, I mean.
It's still there.
The staffing is we got enough people there? Are we still looking for people? Or how's
What
that?
I got was from the builders that they put that sign up on every project. They're always looking for good help, and it's not that they were in dire need of help there. Today there was well in excess of 100 workers out there. I mean, I was impressed with how many people were on that site, on the roof, in the building, in the lower level, on the site, everywhere. And I'm sure 100 is an underestimation of the number of people working on that site. It was impressive.
Very good. Are there other questions, comments from board members? If not, we'll move to action items for this evening. Thank you for the update on Grant and for the great work there. The first action item is the PEPL Life Cycle Budget for fiscal year 2019 and 20. Is there any context to add? And Leslie, I think this came from you.
Yes, thank you, Janet. This is an annual process that we go through. We look at projects that we've completed out of the PEPL life cycle over the past year, new requests or new demands upon our buildings that are things that are not being addressed in the facility master plan, and work with the physical plant and their team to identify those issues and build those into the various components of the life cycle budget. So it's a process that we spent several weeks on earlier this winter to come up with this budget.
Is there a motion to approve the PEPL Life Cycle Budget for 2019-20?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, there's some categories I'd like to see adjusted, but it's needed and that. So.
No further comments or questions. Kim, I think we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, motion to approve the FY 2020 budget and superintendent recommendation. So, Steve?
So again, I know that there's been questions about the budget itself. This is a reminder that this budget sets our tax levy for next year, and we use the aid and levy worksheet and the assumptions that Craig brought to you earlier in the year regarding everything from property tax valuation, tax rates, supplemental state aid, et cetera, to establish that maximum levy for us. This gives us the greatest flexibility as we move forward in our budgeting process. Reminder that there's an amendment that comes to you later as we move through the summer into the fall after the assumptions that are built in here actually become fact, and we're able to back those into the process. So at this point in time, we would recommend to you the certified budget as presented in preparation for establishment of our maximum levy for the 2019-20 school year.
Questions for Steve?
And can you help explain to me and the public with our professional fund, our early retirement that we're doing, that fund, how that gets replenished and everything that way?
Mm-hmm. The early retirement program is designed by Iowa code, specified for school districts to be paid for from the management fund. And we pay for early retirement incentives. We pay for, there's a portion of insurance, not medical, but we pay for property insurance, workers' comp, those kinds of things. We can also pay for unemployment claims, and we can also pay for any tort liability or liability from lawsuits that are over and above our specified liability insurance rate, should that ever occur. It rarely does, but it could occur. So those are the things that you can legally pay for out of the management fund. The management fund is a property tax. And what we did this year is we kept our tax rate to the public stable. It's within 1 penny right now. It'll be fussed with a little bit when the revenue projections come in from the Department of Management for the instructional support levy income surtax piece, and it'll lower our property tax a little bit, but we don't know what all those final dollars are yet. But right now, the proposed tax rate to the public is almost identical to what it was last year, within a penny. It's a penny lower than it was last year. And what we did was we traded off a little bit more in the management fund with our cash reserve tax asking for this year, so that our property tax payers wouldn't have to bear an additional burden as a result of the incentive from the management fund.
But with the and we had a very attractive offering this year on our retirement fund, and it was we had more than a normal group utilize it than in years past, correct?
I believe we ended up with 107, including between our administration, certified, and support staff. I believe there was about 107 that took advantage of that early retirement incentive this year.
So, but going forward, I mean, some of those costs from this year, like for in medical insurance benefits, that's an ongoing expense, and can be an ongoing expense for potentially for some candidates 10 years. Is that correct?
You can, under Iowa law, legally pay for an individual out of the management fund for an early retirement incentive at the age of 55, as long as they qualify for bona fide retirement.
Right.
And so between the age of 55 and 65, the district has offered to pay for that single insurance premium between wherever that person is on that spectrum and age 65 this year as part of that incentive. That's correct.
Oh, some of those costs, I mean, that's still going to be, that could be 10 years out.
Potentially, if we have an early retiree that's 55, that's correct.
Do you foresee this with what we're doing this year with this package, that costs on that are going to increase over time?
I think the early retirement program needs to be looked at each and every year, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that. This year we were faced with a bit of a challenge, as you well know, and I really believe the early retirement program came through with exactly what it was designed to do. It was designed to help us soften the blow to a budget reduction. And that's the way that tool should be used, and an awful lot of districts do use it in that way. So in future years, as circumstances change, if the budget reduction needs aren't as strong next year, then you could look at a different benefit level for the early retirement program. It's been, I believe, 10 years since we offered insurance as a component of our early retirement program. The last time it was offered in this district, because of, again, budget reductions and things that were necessary at that time. And so it's not something that's been offered every year in this district anyway. It's different all over, and different districts have different plans, but I think it just needs to be assessed on that basis every year and what the needs are.
But there still could be going down the road, we still don't know what that long-term cost is going to be for this year, correct?
Well, the insurance premiums adjust each year. And as you know, we have an insurance committee. We have board representation on that insurance committee, and we've been very fortunate to have a very flat, actually, premium structure for the last 5 or 6 years. There's been some small adjustments in that, but our self-insurance program has been doing phenomenally well, okay? I don't foresee that changing in the future. Medical costs continue to climb, and yes, I believe there'll be adjustments to those premiums, which would increase the district's liability for those individuals that were offered this incentive this year. That's called, what is called technically on the balance sheet, it's an OPEB. It's an other post-employment benefit, okay? And it goes on your balance sheet. And we're required to report that as an OPEB in our audit, and it'll show up in the audit. And the full actuarial amount of that liability will be calculated in that audit. And we're preparing our management fund for that, so that it, and we'll structure it so that we won't have to increase taxes on our stakeholders in our district for that.
Well, and one of our the other part of the equation is our valuation and where we are.
That's
and our
tremendous.
Valuation is,
every year, that's a real gift.
And when you look at the rate, of course we always come out low because our valuation is top of the chart. On the insurance part of it too, the way I understand it, the retirees take advantage of the program, and their health insurance is covered even if they get a job someplace else. So if an employee were to go and work out of state or get another job that wasn't a state or in the education field, and I understand that, you know, with the IPERS, that's out of us anyway, but on the healthcare part of it, we still maintain that benefit even though they may work someplace else.
It's not necessarily true.
Okay.
They're only covered as long as they remain on our plan. Iowa law allows a retiree to remain on the district's plan until age 65, okay? That was put in a long time ago. I don't know when, but it's been around for a long time, my whole career. But if you choose to retire and you go work somewhere else, and their work rules are that you have to be covered by their insurance plan, then you're either double covered or you take their insurance plan and you drop our insurance plan, okay? But only as long as you stay on our coverage is the district obligated to pay for your medical insurance.
Okay, so someone going out of state, they'd lose their insurance?
It depends on the rules of the employer that they're going to, and employers have different rules in that regard.
And once someone loses it,
they can't get back on.
Okay, so
it's gone forever.
Okay,
yep.
So it's not the type of
it's
thing
a one-way
someone
door.
Can opt in, opt out, and come back and forth.
Nope.
Though that's how that goes.
No.
All right.
Thanks. Any other questions?
And I just want to clarify, the ongoing expense of the insurance continues to go to the management fund, yes?
That's
Or
correct.
Not a general fund
Nope.
expense?
That's
Great.
correct.
Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the superintendent recommendation for our 2020 budget?
I move we approve the fiscal year 2020 budget superintendent recommendation and set the date of April 9, 2019 at 6 p.m. for the budget hearing.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, resolution to participate in the instructional support program.
If you'll remember, and Craig can jump in here, this is, we've presented this to you before. This is a key part of our instructional program in the district. Provides a significant source of additional revenue for us. We have been blessed by the board and the community to participate in this for many years. This does require a regular review and approval to move forward with it, and so we were with that with you today.
Is there a motion? Thanks. Go ahead.
I move that we pass the resolution to participate in the instructional support program.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, legislative update. Steve, anything you want to add?
There's nothing significant this week simply because we're in between funnels right now, so there are quite a few committee hearings that are taking place. We do have an upcoming legislative forum, which I would remind you of this Friday. At this point in time, I've got quite a few of our legislators that have confirmed that they will be in town this weekend, and so they are looking forward to being here on Friday. We hope to get an update on some of those key pieces that are moving forward, some of the issues like SAVE that have received quite a bit of backroom attention, if you will, maybe coming soon to the fore, and we'll have an opportunity to get an update from them on how things are moving forward.
Thanks.
Just one clarification, so I sent you an email and you replied to us, but Senate File 438.
Yes.
There's a change in there that 279.41 that allows the sale of schoolhouses and property, those funds to go in any fund we choose. So, for example, the general fund.
Right. So at this point in time, those funds all are directed into your PEPL fund and then must be spent on PEPL-approved expenditures. This particular piece of legislation would allow the board, through that sale of real property, to deposit proceeds into the general fund, which obviously has quite a bit more latitude when you consider funding opportunities for the district.
And as I mentioned in that email, just something to watch as we move forward with closing of Trey.
That's good. Anything else? If not, we'll move to our agendas for April 9th. We have an exempt session to keep us current on our negotiations ongoing. Then for our board meeting, we've got student representative update, ICEA update, community comment. We've got our consent agenda. We have a public hearing on a certified budget hearing. We've got a presentation. Lisa, I think we'll be hearing from you on special education update. Action items on certified budget and the 1920 budget reductions.
Is it possible to get a quick update on the district calendar work that was happening with the religious leaders in our community?
Certainly. Yep.
Will we be in a position to have any type of a discussion on the Lucas Performance After School program? Or is that some of the meetings with that will not have happened before?
I know that the PTO meeting occurs the night before that, so I would presume that we, if you want an update on that, let's see, what are we, the 9th, 14th, 23rd? We could add it to the 23rd. We don't have anything scheduled with the Lucas board, LOC board yet. I meet with their board president this week.
Okay.
So we'll make that for the 23rd. Thanks.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask, so originally we had said that our intention was to have our action items be in the second meeting of the month and our presentations be available to the public the first meeting of the month. And we're kind of straying from that, and not that that's, we need to completely stick with that. But I'm wondering, since we haven't discussed the budget from this table, and it hasn't been recorded on YouTube for somebody to see, I know they can listen to the recordings. I'm wondering if there would be interest in having there be a presentation at this meeting and having the vote be at the second meeting in April.
That certainly, we can work that through. It's not, from a time-sensitive standpoint, doesn't need to be passed by the 9th. I think we'll be through that work at the back of the board table this evening. So we could certainly repeat that presentation and tune that up for the April 9th meeting.
I think it's a good idea. I think we should do that. Thanks, Lori.
I agree.
I guess I thought the 15th was a deadline. Maybe I'm remembering wrong.
That's for the certified budget.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
No, that's good. That's a good suggestion. Anything else from directors for the 9th? Hearing none, I think we're done for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you.